Hello everyone, this is the 2019 version of the LEGO Star Wars AT-AP Walker, based around the attack on Kashyyyk, or rather the defense of Kashyyyk. And let me not waste any time in getting to the simple fact that this is essentially a minor revamp to the version released just 5 short years ago in 2014. And I also reviewed that one, so you can still see that old review on my channel. There's not a whole lot that has been changed. There are a lot of little things that have been changed, but functionally it's very, very similar. And if you have that 2014 one, you don't want to buy a whole new one, you don't need to. There's really no reason to here. There are some differences with the figures this time around, some minor differences to the build itself, actually a bunch of little differences, but LEGO is not trying to sell this to force anyone who has already bought one just 5 years ago or less to buy yet another one. This is just an update to have a decent sized walker on the market for today's kit. So what about the droid attack on the Wookiees Ki-Adi-Mundi? We've got AT-AP walkers. We've got you covered. Don't worry about it. Don't trip. We're good. This thing has a very large cannon, and it has a medium-sized cannon, and it has another medium-sized cannon. The main one is your main barrel, which is able to be angled up and down, and then this upper part is used a little bit more for point defense, also for targeting smaller targets. It's a little bit more agile. All of this by default is locked into place with a very simple mechanism back here. You just pull this down. Now it is unlocked, so you can move things around. Like I said, the main barrel is able to go up and down, but it's never able to go flat. So you can angle it down, but you can never angle completely parallel with the ground. It's always going to be shooting downwards just a little bit, which is, I think, unfortunate. I think it should have been designed to be able to at least fire straight ahead at targets that are much farther away from you. The upper thing here, this turret, is able to rotate around, and that is able to go a full 360 degrees. Yeah, just move that out of the way. It's able to flip all the way around, and it has a single spring-loaded shooter up at the top, so you can actually shoot at some things. Unfortunately, it's not able to shoot at things too close to you, so if you get attacked, if something manages to sneak up on you, well, you actually have that covered too, because you've got another cannon down here. This is able to shoot so far down that it's actually able to shoot itself in the foot. And this is on a ball joint, so this is able to rotate around all ways. So you really have good coverage with that. That's good for play, I think, for realistic play scenarios. If you're trying to think of different ways to attack against this thing, then it has ways to attack back. You get access to the interior several ways. This is a port that opens up, lets you get into a single seat on the side. There's also the same thing around the other side. This opens up, and this is part of it that's nearly identical to the 2014 version. I'll show you the interior a little bit better, but I also wanted to point out that all of this can open entirely to get you much more access and get a lot more light in there. The interior space is generous. You don't have to really cram your fingers in there to get figures to sit down. They have plenty of space. They get attached to the seats with just 2 studs each, and each one gets a console with a small sticker, and you have that large tactical display up in the center, which is showing one of the other presently available sets that is coming at you, and you'll be trying to target that. So this is set up pretty nicely. I think the whole thing looks decent around the back. You do get to see a bunch of those blue Technic half pins, and also some of them are the extra long pins. But yeah, they don't really bug me that much. Just little bits of color here and there. Yeah, the level of detail is pretty nice, with some extra pieces added in that really didn't need to be there, but they definitely add to the overall fit and finish. And there's a little bit of space back here, almost a rear deck, where you can place some extra figures if you want. This may look like a 3-legged walker the way that it's presented, but strictly speaking, it's a 2-legged walker with an outrigger, or a stabilizing leg that is only brought down when it is not in motion. It walks just on 2 legs. So it is important to be able to retract this, and the mechanism for that is good. These are also nice, how it kind of feels like the toes are able to conform to the ground just a little bit, just feels good to the hand. But this is able to fold up underneath all the way back to the back, and there's even a little clip back here to help hold that in place so that when it is fully folded up, and let me make sure that's all the way in there. Yep. And did I get it all the way? Feels like I didn't. There we go. That will just clip over, and it's supposed to hold it in place. You don't really even need to do that, but it's just a nice little extra thing. And there you go. That is fully folded up, and it is, like I said, a two-legged walker. Can it actually walk though, as a toy? Let's see. Can't move these toes, so you don't get very good stability there. It wants to lean forward, but I can get it one click. See if I can get it 2 clicks. No, that is definitely not going to work, and there's no room to move the other leg farther forward. So the best that you can do is to move one leg, 1 click back. Make sure that you've got the stabilizing leg all the way back so that it's moving the center of gravity back a bit. And, I mean, this is better than nothing. It does look like it is moving. It's not supposed to be a super fast moving thing, so it kind of looks like it's lumbering along like this. It's acceptable. Moving on to the figures, here we have Clone Commander Gree on the left and a generic unnamed Kashyyyk clone trooper on the right, who was a prequel to the Scout Troopers of the original trilogy. Both of these figures are, as far as I can tell, exclusive as of now, but they are nearly identical to their previous versions, with the only differences that I can see being color substitutions of one single bit of print on the legs, with Clone Commander Gree, the dark tan right there in that strip, that band going across one leg, and also just a little bit down here in these corners was previously gray. Now it's dark tan. Similarly with the Kashyyyk Trooper, dark tan right here and right here. Those 2 spots, those were previously done in brown. Or was it dark brown? I think it was just brown. And now it's done in tans, or dark tan, so it's a little bit more noticeable. But otherwise, these appear to be identical to their previous versions. So if you do get them, you technically have new figures. But if you don't get them, and you already have the previous versions of these, you're not really missing out on anything, unless you're just a super completionist who has to get everything, in which case you must be either rich or completely broke. One or the other. Either you have a lot of money or you've already spent it on a whole lot of figures and sets to get these things. And because these are prequel era sets, it is absolutely appropriate to have Django angry clone faces for both of these. This time around, for a Wookiee, they included, by now, the most generic Wookiee of them all, Chewbacca, the star Wookiee of the series, but they've just made so many Chewbaccas, and even this relatively new version of him has been done again and again and again and again and again, so there's nothing too special here. But if you like Chewbacca, you want another Chewbacca, here's another Chewbacca. These 2 battle droids are strangely interesting. They are AAT drivers who are being marketed here with this set as Kashyyyk battle droids because, you know, they have the green and the olive colors in them. But canonically, as shown in the Clone Wars series, they are directly, they're identical to the markings of AAT drivers. Not as detailed in this Lego form here, but yeah, they're AAT drivers. It's interesting that Hasbro actually previously made up a non-canonical Kashyyyk battle droid with camouflage, with some olive green and dark green, actually with a lot more dark green. But those were never seen in any movie. They were never seen in any show or anything. They were just made up, and they made sense. Lego did not follow suit. Instead, they picked, I think, the wrong thing. I think this was just a mistake, but I don't mind it. Cool versions of battle droids to get, nevertheless. And they kind of work for the idea of being on Kashyyyk. Just, let them be operators of some sort of other mechanized units. Lastly, here are the spare parts left over from building this thing, and they also have one extra but intentionally included a bolt for the spring-loaded shooter. If you want to see the actual assembly process for this set, you can check that out over on my build channel, and there will be a link to it right inside this video just at the end. From a purely subjective perspective, it's a little tough for me personally to get too excited about this thing, mostly because of my own personal bias. I just am not a huge fan of most of the prequel era stuff, just relatively speaking, relative to other things that have been created in the Star Wars universe. But this is, I think, one of the nicer vehicles / craft to be designed for the prequel era. And the best thing about it is that it is a pretty sizable walker. Speaking of size, let me actually show you what the size of this thing is relative to the size of the box. The box is a good deal bigger. The box makes it look like it's going to be pretty huge. So if you see the box in person, this is how big the actual thing is going to be. I'll try to put that at the same distance from the camera for you. So I guess it's not that much of a difference, but there definitely is a difference. So yeah, just again, if you see the box in person, hopefully that'll help. But it is a pretty sizable walker, all things considered, relative to a minifigure. It's good. It has a good presence on a table or something. And let me grab this. Thing to keep in mind is that, at least in the US, this is $60. It's more expensive elsewhere, but the price to part ratio is really good for the US. Elsewhere, it's about where it normally is, which is expensive, more expensive than we would like it to be. But it's not terrible. But compare it to this, the last big walker that we got, the most recent thing on the market, which is $150 in the US at least. And this has the super long legs and everything, but I can imagine these two getting in a fight with each other and this one actually having a chance. Now, this would have more of a chance if it was able to actually elevate the barrel up, but if you're just playing with it, you can always just do this, in which case you could definitely see this huge cannon being able to do some serious damage to that. Just looking at them as toys. Is this worth $150 if this is worth $60? I don't think so. I feel like this is a much better deal. So I think that's the main thing that LEGO has done here, is that they've put a good-sized official Star Wars walker on the market, even though they had one kind of recently-ish. They put one on the market now for a price that is significantly lower than the last nice-sized walker, and I think it makes sense. And I think the figures are fine. There's a little bit of funkiness here with the choice for the battle droids. These two, there's tiny difference from the last. It's a little bit weird, but I'm okay with it. I think it's better that they make a little bit of change than none. And the figures were already fine, so it's not like they really were in desperate need of an update. So I'm okay with that. The interior and access to the interior is very good. The stability of the whole thing is good. The build was good. Wasn't too tricky. Actually goes together fairly quickly for its size. I think it's a perfectly satisfactory set. It's the type of thing where if you look at it and you want it, I think that you should get it, and I think that you will be happy with the end result. If you feel like you are being compelled to get this, like you need to get it, but you don't really want to, just don't. Just skip it. It's definitely a skippable thing. But yeah, that pretty much does it for my thoughts on this one, and I think I've shown you everything there is to see about it. I think so, hopefully. And yeah, I'm going to move on to the next thing. Thank you for watching. I will talk to you again as soon as I can.